A virago is a female warrior, or a mannish woman. I own both definitions, but I wasn't always this self-assured. You see, when I was 16 years old, I was diagnosed with polycystic ovary syndrome, a condition that affects only 5 to 10% of women. One of its side effects is hirsutism, or the growth of a beard as a female. By the time I was in my 20s, I was shaving every day, and the skin on my cheeks, chin, and neck were inflamed with ingrown hairs and razor bumps. The skin in these areas had also darkened considerably, becoming this traitorous tattoo that defiantly declared the very trait I was desperate to hide. As a partially sighted Black woman, I was already constantly combating other people's perceptions of who I was, what I represented, and the value that I brought to the world. By 1998, I found myself in the midst of a dichotomy of two social phenomena, both at the height of their popularity. On one side, we had the outrageous Jerry Springer Show, and on the other side, Buju Banton's hit, Boom Bye Bye. Being socially perceived as a trans woman brought with it an overt level of hostility and exclusion that far exceeded anything that I faced as a female, as a person of color, or living with a disability. It was incredible the way that strangers felt entitled to comment, to sneer, or loudly discuss the probability of my gender without any regard. I was simply public fodder, there to be viewed, reviewed, and discarded. It had me feeling both conspicuous and invisible at the very same time. Life resembled a jail sentence to be served, as I was straitjacketed by a hyper-awareness of all my intersectionalities and the ways that they overlaid every area of my life. The social toll exacted on me daily left me struggling as to how to move from simply surviving to thriving. It all came to a head one evening when I attended a street party in conjunction with a project that I was involved with. The streets were teeming with people. The music was booming. It was a beautiful evening, and I have to say I was looking fabulous in a red sundress. At one point in the evening, I did notice a man nearby watching me intently, and his actions were nauseatingly familiar. There was the scan of my chin, then the scrutiny of my neck for signs of an Adam's apple, followed by a close examination of my body, paying particular attention to my hands and my feet. It was always the same. When he took steps in my direction, however, a bolt of dread just flashed through me. I prepared myself for what I envisioned as a verbal exchange. My screams, however, rang through the night as I felt his hand brutally grab me by the nether regions. He squeezed and twisted as hard as he could before ripping his hand away. My knees collapsed and the words "Batiwai" followed me to the ground. I can still hear the sounds of my breaths coming in grunts through my clenched teeth as I fought to get a hold of myself. Those minutes felt like an eternity. And when I did manage to pull myself up through the hurt back on my feet, I was on fire. Obscenities burst through my lips. But underneath, there was another burn that brought tears to my eyes. I felt as if the essence of what made me me was tearing apart on the inside. Lord, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I was exhausted, constantly torn between not giving a damn what people thought and giving a damn what people thought. I wanted to change their perceptions of me. I wanted to explain or justify my existence because it sucked. It sucked that I could clear a bench just by sitting down. And it sucked that I was visually impaired, and when I asked people for help, I got, "Don't talk to me," or "Get away from me." And it sucked that the seat beside me on the bus would always stay empty, no matter how full it got. In those initial moments after the assault, when the perpetrator got to simply strut away with a smirk, and I was met with a gauntlet of unsympathetic eyes, it seemed as if the totality of my value as a human being and the fortitude required to be me was on the line. And then out of that feeling of brokenness emerged this profound clarity on my responsibility to embrace myself fully first, because I set the standard of how I would be treated. I learned that once and for all, I had to do away with any desire for social approval and uncompromisingly embrace my uniqueness and everything that made me me, because those were the hallmarks of my resilience. With that knowledge, I could feel my soul knitting itself back together with power. I felt fuller of myself somehow, as if every cell in my body had increased to its utmost expanse, and that I therefore more amply occupied space. When I left that evening, it was with a deliberate upward tilt of my chin, as I reveled in the knowledge of my inability to be destroyed. We are only as weak as the labels we choose to live under, and we are as strong as the titles we give ourselves to live up to. A virago is a female warrior or a mannish woman. I own both definitions.